Hey y'all, happy Thursday. Hope y'all are having a good week. So today we are going to take some notes over the next part of Islam that we need to discuss, which is Sunni versus Shia Islam. So on the piage before this video, you should have seen a notes page. That is for you to use if you'd like. If you'd rather take notes yourself on just piece of paper, whatever, you do what you feel most comfortable with. It is there if you need it. And so today we're just going to go over these notes. Should not take too long, and then you all will be on your way. So if you remember, Muhammad was the founder of Islam. He is the guy who had the vision or the talk with God. God told him to spread the word, so he went to Mecca, was preaching, got kicked out, went to Medina, and then came back and took the city. Same guy. So he was basically in charge of both the physical or yeah, no, physical and physical and religious part of Islam. He was responsible for both. So he ruled this until he died in the year 632. So he had been a very strong, kind of unifying presence in Islam, and his death was felt immediately. Two different groups began to compete for power that he once held. And so essentially, this whole dispute of Sunni versus Shia boils down to one kind of large question: what comes next? And what comes next is who is in charge of Islam? Who's going to be the next spiritual and political person to run the religion, essentially, the way Muhammad had? And so that is where the basic issue in this conflict comes down to. One group says one side should run, or one person should run it. Another group says a different person should run it. And so this conflict essentially started right after Muhammad died, and it's still ongoing in some form or fashion today, almost 1400 years later. And essentially, it's who should have taken over after the death of Muhammad. And so the two groups that show up are known as the Sunni and Shia Muslims. Now, Sunnis believe that members of the Islamic community, known as the Ummah, should have chosen the successor. So they believe that all the Muslims should have gotten together and voted on who should have been the successor to Muhammad. Shia Muslims, on the other hand, believe that Muhammad's father-in-law, Ali, should have been chosen. And so that is essentially what this whole thing boils down to. So Shia Muslims believe that Ali, Muhammad's father-in-law, should have been in charge. Sunnis believe that the Ummah, the Muslim community, should have gotten together and essentially vote as to who would be the next caliph, as they call it. Caliph is the Arabic word for leader. So eventually, the Sunnis won out, and Muhammad's close friend, Abu Bakr, I think is how you say it, this guy right here, was chosen as the first caliph, which again is the Arabic word for leader. So Abu Bakr was the first Muslim or the first caliph after Muhammad. And he was not well, he wasn't very popular originally. He had the support of the Sunnis, but he did not have the support of the Shia. So there were issues. Eventually, Ali, so the ones that the Shia Muslims wanted, would be chosen as the fourth caliph. But notice I said fourth. So there is Abu Bakr, who's the first, and then there were two other caliphs between him and Ali. And I believe both of those two were assassinated. They were murdered, essentially. So eventually, Ali did become caliph, but not until after Abu Bakr was chosen. And so that is essentially the conflict here is which one of these two gentlemen would be the caliph after Muhammad. And it seems like it'd be a simple, easy to fix problem, but they've never agreed on the order. Even today, they argue over who should have been the first caliph. Shia Muslims believe that Ali should have been the caliph, and so they consider him the first caliph. But Sunnis believe that Abu was the first caliph, and so they're arguing over this, and it's led to conflict between the two groups. So as far as today goes, the conflict between these two is it's an interesting one. So today, that's a typo. Roughly 85 to 90% of the world's Muslim population belong to the Sunni sect. Sunnis are the one who wanted the Ummah to choose the successor, and they're the ones who elected Abu Bakr as the caliph. So they are the majority of the world's Muslim population are Sunni, and you can kind of see it in the red here. And all this red is where a majority of the population who are Muslim are Sunni. The other 10 to 15% belong to the Shia sect. And if you notice, there is one big standout here, and that is Iran. And then you got down here in Yemen. But Iran is the big one. And so each of these two groups, Shia and Sunni, try to exert their own influence in the world today. The most notable example is between Shia Iran and Sunni Saudi Arabia. Both sides use their influence in neighboring countries such as Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, even to kind of influence policies in that country that are leaning towards their side. Iran is known for funding militias in Iraq that have pro-Iran policies. Saudi Arabia is known for doing the same thing in Syria and Yemen. They are funding the different groups that benefit and follow their section of Islam, whether it's Sunni or Shia. And so they both use their influence as a way to push policies and agendas in the region, and even at the global level. Iran is known for being a sponsor of terrorism, basically, using their proxy militias, as you'll see them called in the news. And a lot of times those are Shia-backed militia groups. Not always. And keep in mind, too, that most Muslims today are actually fairly peaceful, and not all of them fall into one of the two, Sunni or Shia. It's kind of like Christianity, how there's like Methodists, Baptists, Catholics. Like there's different denominations of Christianity. There are different denominations of Islam. Sunni and Shia are just the two big ones, and they're the ones that catch a lot of the attention in the news. And so that's why I felt it was a good idea to go over it, so you all will at least kind of understand the background behind it, and that kind of thing. So I will put this PowerPoint on Canvas too, if you would like to look at it that way. That is actually all I have for you all. So if you all have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you all have a good rest of the day, and I will see you all tomorrow.